Welcome back to Garden Girl Studio. Today I am sharing my new art market booth setup. I am so excited to show you all. Plus, I'm sharing some tips for small business owners and makers as art market season kicks off. Let's dive in. Today we are market prepping, and by that I mean we're actually going to be going through our market setup because I'm changing it up. We're going to be testing today the new setup before the market. Today is Wednesday. Wow, I had to think about that. That's sad. Today is Wednesday. The market isn't until Friday. It's Friday through Sunday. So we're going to have some time. I'm going to take you with us today to test the setup before we get to the market and we need to set up. Then I'm actually going to bring you to the market with us on Friday for the actual setup and the final results. So let's take a ride and head on out. Garden Dad has set up a booth for us to test out on. So we're going to see if we like the new furniture. Basically, we have new shelving. So instead of us having 6-foot tables, we're testing out some different shelving spaces. So now what we're going to do is kind of rearrange. We're going to see what way we like setting it up so that we know what to pack in the car for Friday. So let's check that out. Okay, so this is not bad. It's an option. The other option would be to move everything like down.
Yeah, I had it like that for a while.
Well, and we can also move like this to like one side if we needed to.
Yeah, I kind of had it that way too.
I'm just playing. And this one would probably go somewhere else since it's the sweatshirt one. Maybe there's more room in the middle for people.
Yes, I like that.
Or whatever, you know, we can figure it out. But that's not bad.
And then want to figure out what
That way there's more room.
what containers you need, what tabletop things you need.
I think we like that. I think that's nice. That way it's a little more spacious. Okay, so we've pulled a few supplies, but I think we like this setup because it's a little bit more open. Back it up a little. It's a little bit more open in the center, so it'll be easier for people to walk. We have a 10 by 10 space. We do need, it's indoor, but we need the canopy, the tent here. Notice it doesn't have a top on it because we're inside, and if we have the top on it, then there's bad lighting. So, but we have to have sides. So this is my tent displaying. Okay, he's trying to show you, but it's gonna have sides on the back and at least one side. If we have a corner, we'll leave the other side open. If we don't have a corner, we have to close off the other side. It's just part of this market. They make us have sides on our tent. So having the tent canopy makes it easy for us to have sides without bringing in, I don't know, extra PVC piping. This is already built up, so it gives us walls without having to worry about it. Next time you see me, it'll probably be Friday and we'll be setting up. We'll try to bring a little tripod or something to show you while we set up. It's Monday, we got through our art market, so let's discuss how the new display went and some tips for helping you decide how you want to set up your displays this year. If you're new to the channel, my name is Lauren. I am the fiber artist, quilter, and surface designer behind Garden Girl Studio. I design fabric and make cozy goodies that I sell both on my website and in local art markets. I've been doing art markets for about 2 years, and my booth has undergone many changes. Some for the better and some that we've just had to keep adjusting along the way. To be honest, I think building up your booth is an evolution. Every time we do an art market, it's rarely the same twice. Different markets have different setups, and so we just kind of adjust to what we're given every time we have to go to an art market. So my booth has undergone many changes through the years. So I'm going to walk you through what's working, what changes we've made over the years, and tips that you can use to help maybe fine-tune your booth if that's something you're interested in doing this market season. In this past weekend's market, this is our first time using some new furniture. We had new shelving units. In the past, I've used 6-foot tables, so tables that are 6 foot long. And I really liked these new shelves because they gave us more vertical space for displaying. A lot of times the 6-foot tables can lead you to more flat displays, or you need to have cubbies or grids or boxes to like elevate your products and your displays on top of the 6-foot table so that people can see them at different heights. So they're more visually appealing. If you have all of your products laid on a flat table, it's not as easy to shop. People are less likely to come over. You really want some vertical interest in order for people to be able to shop your booth and to come over and just make it more visually appealing and interesting to shop. So with these new shelf-based designs, it automatically gave us vertical display space, which was absolutely great. Love that. We did still use, I have these grids that I use. I make embroidered hoops, different hoop art, ornaments, small city ornaments, funny wall hanging embroidery art. And so we use these like a triangle grid essentially that we've rigged over the years. Thank you, Garden Dad. So we still have that, but in general, we have one 6-foot table at the back for like my cash out area, and then we have the shelves along the sides. So that's what we decided to go with. Now we used to rely on the 6-foot tables, like I said, which are super budget friendly. If you're just getting started, 6-foot tables are an easy way to go. You can grab a couple of like the white milk crate bins, you know, to build up some height, or they do sell on Amazon these little like grids that you can, I don't know, you can make your own little shelves, you know, hangable spaces. I will link all of these products in the description below if you want to go check them out. Ultimately, I think with these shelves, it was visually appealing. It was more organized and like more succinct. Like everything looked far more organized and just easier to shop. When you're at these markets, there's a lot going on. There were food vendors yelling, "Hey, free sample. Hey, look over here." And when you're setting up your booth, you want things easy to visually process. There's so much coming at the shoppers that you want your space to just be clear cut. They know what they're looking at, they know what's happening, and it can be a place for them to like rest and enjoy and shop without being overwhelmed or overstimulated. I know personally, I get super overwhelmed and overstimulated at these markets. The vertical shelves were also great for saving like the footprint of our space. So we had a 10 by 10 booth. The 6-foot tables were wider, so they'd come more into like the shopping space, whereas these vertical displays were narrower, which left more room for our shoppers to wander the booth. More people could come into our booth to check everything out, which was a big plus. And it helps with customer flow. So instead of just a couple customers being able to come to the booth and kind of check things out, other customers could come in and feel like they could browse without like bumping into each other or feeling overcrowded. Now, on the downside, on the trade-off, these shelves are not as sturdy balance-wise as a 6-foot table. A 6-foot table is low and long and wide. It's less likely to flop over if, say, there's wind. The market that we were at on Friday was indoors, so I didn't have to worry about wind or weather. But if I'm at an outdoor show later in the season, I might need to take some extra steps to make sure that these shelves stay sturdy. There's a chance that they could become uneven if they're on uneven ground. I might need to put something under the feet of the shelves to make sure that they don't topple or wobble. And if it's a windy day, I might need to actually secure them to the tent or put extra weights on them to make sure that they don't fall over. When you have a vertical display unit, it has a greater chance of falling over because the wind can catch it as opposed to something low and long. So pros and cons depending on what types of markets you're doing. Personally, I know we're trying to do more indoor markets when we can because weather is just such an unpredictable factor. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's not like we can, assess ahead of time how many people are coming to the event or if it's going to be a good fit. Weather will make or break your day, and there's not much we can do to control the weather. So we're trying to do more indoor markets, but of course, it's always nice to get out in the sunshine too. So if you have more outdoor markets, keep in mind that taller display items might need to be reinforced or secured for safety. That being said, it is not a deal breaker. It just might be something that we have to, look into as we get deeper into our market season and as we have more outdoor events. One of my favorite updates with one of these display shelves, shout out to Garden Dad. He helped us rework the shelf so that we could use it for a sweatshirt display, we modified the unit by taking out one of the shelves, and we added a hanging rod so that we could set up our sweatshirts a little bit more boutique style so they could kind of shop them from a rack. Previously, we had this shelving unit, but it was so hard to store and to move. It would, like, all of the bars, like, it wasn't that bad, but just the box was hard to transport and the bars would fall out. It was just kind of more of a nuisance. Having these racks where the shelves just come down and then they can just fold back up makes life so much easier. So I'm glad we were able to modify it. It worked out really well. And then on the top of the shelf, we actually add a couple like mannequin shoulder, like bust displays that we can put a couple sweatshirts facing the crowd or facing into the booth so people can see like what the sweatshirts read before they start browsing on the shelf itself, which definitely helps with the visual appeal. They can know what's, you know, what to look for. It instead of it just being on a rack, they can actually see like, hey, this is what's on the shelf. This is why you want to come check it out and come look at it. Okay, tips for product placement and displays. These are huge. This was a slow market, I'm not gonna lie. This market was one of our, I mean, it wasn't like terribly slow, but it wasn't as busy as we were hoping for, which is to be expected in the spring. I'm super thankful for all the shoppers that came out, and I got to chit chat with so many people. But when you have a slower market, it's important to optimize the shoppers who are there to make sure that they have a good experience and that they understand what's happening in your booth and whether it might be a good fit for them. So some ways that we try to do that are to make our booth visually appealing, not cluttered. We want to make sure it's not going to be cluttered, and we want to make sure that it's easy to process. The first thing you want to do is think about where your foot traffic is coming from. I had a very interesting booth this time. I was expecting to be like tucked between two vendors, but somehow I was like sitting in my own little aisleway. So I had 3 sides of my booth that were open. We had to have a backing, like part of the stipulation from this show is that you have to have like walls to your booth anywhere like you're touching another vendor. So I had to have a back wall, but the other 3 sides were open, which means I had, and there were aisleways on all 3 sides, which meant that I had 3 opportunities to attract attention and to stop my customers and make them pause to look at my product. So some of our shelves we turned outward into the aisleways. So instead of them facing into the booth, I faced them outward, especially if I had like a shelving unit that was like running right alongside like my cash out table. No one can shop that from the inside anyways. I turned it to the outside. And that also gives more shopping space so that if people are shopping your booth from the inside and it seems crowded, they can also shop it from the outside. So it just builds your footprint on where people can actually shop your space and gives you more opportunities to make those sales. On the downside, you've got to be careful of people that could steal your products. When you have your displays turned outwards, just keep an eye if you're worried about losing product to make sure that someone doesn't run away with something. That's the downside of turning your displays outward. But people could shop the edge of our booth, which was a huge help. So loved that. So that when our booth inside was totally full, people could shop on the outside. We also placed our dog mama and our mama sweatshirts, like I mentioned, on the bust mannequins, facing outward, facing those aisles. We kind of analyzed where the traffic was going to be coming from as they entered the building and which paths they were most likely to take. We made sure our mannequins were up high on that highest shelf and facing those aisles so that they could be seen from far away and people would gravitate toward them and it would make them pause and look our way. Again, this market was not just handmade vendors. It was also all kinds of different resellers, multi-level marketing. It was food vendors, so there was a lot going on. So for a small handmade vendor like me to stand out, we had to pull out all the stops and do what we could. I also highly recommend putting your best-selling products or items that you want to feature at eye level in your displays. So even if you have a 6-foot table, try to build it up a little bit with using different display items, boxes, anything you can find to put your best-selling products at eye level. People are more likely to shop at eye level. And I found that that worked for us too. I had our jewelry displayed on little bust necklace mannequins and in our little displays, and the ones that were at eye level sold the fastest. And anytime, even when I have my spinning racks, if I've got like a single table set up in a smaller booth location, any of my jewelry, I always move it up so that it's at eye level. So if it starts selling down, I move the ones that are lower higher, and so on. And that goes for multiple products. I also put my city hoops on the outside. Remember that trifold rack I was telling you about? I put my city, my local town ornaments on the outside because they always stop and they draw in attention. People want to find their city. They want to connect. They want to say, ooh, is my city here? That creates the pause. The key is to create a stopping moment so that your customers will stop. They'll look at your booth. You can engage them. You can say hello. You can ask them if they found their city. You can ask them how their day is going. And that could be just enough for them to take a moment, to stop, to pause, and to come in your booth. I also try not to over-engage my customers because I know personally I like to kind of just shop, but I make sure I greet them and I make sure I let them know that my stuff is handmade. It's not resale. I am making my products. I have 1 or 2 manufactured items, but I do all of the artwork. And they're always like, wow, you design all of the fabric? Yes, I design all of the fabric. I'm hand making all of my goods. And oh, by the way, our hand embroidered jewelry is hand stitched. It's all thread work. And that's enough for them to pull them a little bit deeper into the booth. You've connected with them. And they were like, usually like, that's thread work? I thought that that was painting, or I thought that that was resin. And they come closer and then it gives them a minute to stop and they'll actually look. The key is trying to get your customers to pause. Give them a reason to stop. Give them a little bit of value. Things like I can say my handbags are washable. They're great for travel. They're so useful. They open up wide. I make the zipper so they come all the way down the sides so that you can open all the way up. I know personally when I'm going through my makeup bag, having to get into the bottom of the bag, I like seeing all of my makeup. So when I open it up, I want to be able to get to my mascara that's fallen all the way to the bottom of the bag. So try to make things useful and then give them time to shop. Let them know that you're there for them and give them some breathing room to kind of look around. I also use a color blocking technique. So anytime I can, I organize my products by color. So I keep all of my blue sweatshirts together. I keep my pink sweatshirts together. And you can see this most prominently with the way that I display my bags and pouches. I keep all of my bags and pouches in color order. Again, this gives the eye a place to rest. It's easy to visually process and creates less confusion. It also gives a really cool kind of rainbow wall effect that people, a colorful, thing that people are drawn towards. They want to come see all of the bright colors and see what it is, and they get curious and they wander over. So anytime you can create that visual appeal, it's going to help your booth for sure. It might seem ambiguous where you place your products, but placing your products in certain key locations can really help draw attention to your booth and give customers that pause moment so they stop and give you a chance and you have an opportunity to connect with them and maybe see if your product is a good fit. Keep in mind that booth setup is an evolution. Don't try to do it all at once. It can be a lot. It can be overwhelming. I am here for you. I've been doing this for 2 years and we are still reworking our booth and trying to make modifications. Next time I'm currently looking for little tiny reading lights that I can clip to the lower shelves in my jewelry booth to get a little bit of extra light on them for when I'm at indoor shows. So no booth is going to be perfect. There's always going to be things that you can update and modify if you want to. Consider how much you want to invest in your booth, what feels worth it, and what you can make do with. You don't need to have a perfect booth up front. You can take some of these tips and use what you've got. We have from the beginning used what we have, and slowly along the way, we update a piece of furniture or two as we go. Doesn't need to be perfect out the chute. Just start and see what works and then modify based on your products and what works for your business. It can definitely be an investment over time. The shelving units cost a lot more than 6-foot tables. Based on your budget, do what you think is right. Some nice tablecloths, some little risers or milk crates can do a lot for a table display. So start slow, start small, and build as you see what works and doesn't work for your business. I hope this gave you some helpful ideas for your own booth market setup. Let me know in the comments below if you're doing art markets this season and what your biggest challenge is. I would love to hear. If you want to see more behind the scenes of my small creative business, don't forget to hit that like and that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you can know exactly when my new videos have released. Thanks for hanging out with me at Garden Girl Studio. Until next time, friends, happy stitching.